Shorah, everyone, and welcome to the latest episode of the WaterCooler Show. In this episode, we sit down with the creators of Unwritten, a D&D style game that you might have heard of throughout the years. If you were at Mysterium this year, you may have played it. And if you have not heard a thing about this, well, let me just say you're in for a treat. So let's get started. Shorah, everybody, welcome back to the show. I'm very excited today to have two guests, Ellery and Vax Jedi. For those of you that don't know, these two are some of the brains behind Unwritten. Why don't you guys tell us a little bit about what that is and how you got started with it?
Oh, okay. So Unwritten is a tabletop role-playing game based in the world of the Myst games and the Disney universe, the Diniverse, if you prefer. For those of people who don't know what tabletop role-playing games are, that's essentially like D&D, Dungeons and Dragons and such. But Unwritten is a game that's designed to evoke the feelings of both the Myst games and the Uru games. You can have adventures, you can solve mysteries, you can explore strange new worlds, TM, and go into ages and all that sort of thing. It is a role-playing game built on a system that's known as Fate, the Fate RPG, which is the core of several different role-playing games. And it's a game about, developing your own stories in the worlds of Myst and Uru.
Well, sounds like a ball.
I mean, I like it. We came up with this idea actually at the end of Uru. Myst Online, Uru Live was closing down, and we'd always talked about the fact that we thought one of the solutions to Uru's issues with people not being engaged with the story enough directly was to run it more like a role-playing game and sort of democratize it. Let people kind of create their own stories. Just like people playing D&D create their own stories.
Right, and that was very much what we were trying to do anyway with Uru. That's not too far of a stretch from what was originally intended for Uru in the first place.
Exactly.
So you said you started this at the end of Myst Online. Was that at the end? Because it's ended quite a few times, so I'm kind of curious. Was it at the end of like the Game Tap era, or was it like?
It was the Game Tap era, yeah.
Yeah, I think Game Tap era is when we started really talking about it seriously. Although we'd had the conversation, over the years.
Yeah, because I remember like back in the Until days, or at some portion before Game Tap, there had been talk about something called Unwritten, and although I could be remembering completely incorrectly.
There was some talk of it, around. I actually got the name idea from a video that Martin made. Martin did lots of music videos in Uru, and he did a video of, what's her name? She wrote a song called Unwritten.
I know the video you're talking about. That I watched that religiously back in the day because it was so good. Did he make that for one of like the music video contests we had, or was it just?
I don't remember. Martin was pretty prolific at the time when it came to his videos.
Yeah.
And I saw the video. I'm like, that's the perfect name for something like this. And he already got it. Hey. But I started talking about it, especially with people in the Great Tree on that particular forum, about hey, this would be kind of cool, and how would we do this sort of thing. And, once the Game Tap years wound down, I was just like, oh, well, we need something to continue, and this might be the time. We connected up with C.C.N, provided some writing samples, and said, hey, this is something you mind if we just sort of wrote up. We were planning it to be just sort of a thing, a little fan thing, And they saw the stuff and said, yeah, and, actually, if you want to sell this, we could probably come up with something to make that like legal. And so we went from, oh, here's this fan idea that was coming together to, oh, this is real now. We can do stuff. And then Ellery took over in her amazing ability to move things along, and suddenly we had a Kickstarter for it.
And what year was that?
2013. I think the initial sitting down and planning out the Kickstarter started the very end of 2012.
So what did you guys end up, how much interest did you guys end up getting for your
Oh my
Kickstarter?
God. We were so blown away because we set a goal of 5,000 and mind you,
7,500 actually.
yeah, yeah, we didn't have a sense of how the industry worked. We were complete noobs. We were thinking, okay, this will pay for somebody to like edit it and make sure we haven't like got typos everywhere and maybe some artwork. Yo, thought, okay, we'll get the Mist fans who always get everything Mist for their collections, and we'll get some of the Fate fans that always get everything Fate for their collections. We didn't realize there was going to be a lot of overlap with that at all. We had no idea. And we didn't realize that we were going to end with almost 600 backers and $35,000.
Ba-boom.
And it went from, oh, we're going to make this little thing to, oh, we have to write a book now. Yeah, it was really exciting. It was really scary.
But I bet it was a blast to do.
It was a blast to do. It was a blast to do. And we learned a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And this was really early days of Kickstarter too, where you couldn't charge shipping separately. And we were one of the first groups to use BackerKit. And so a lot of the things that are ubiquitous now and are just like standard now were brand new or didn't exist.
Yeah. Have you ever heard of Wormwood that make gaming accessories? Like,
yes.
They were doing their first Kickstarter at the same time we were. And they messaged us and said, that looks like an interesting Kickstarter. Do you want to work together on something, some sort of, stretch goal or something that we can add to your work? So they made us some dice boxes, which were given out to some of the higher levels of the people pledging to Unwritten at the time. And, no one knew who Wormwood was at the time. So we've got these really nice game boxes that have Unwritten in Denise script on the top of them, and not even a Wormwood symbol on the side because they hadn't really established that yet. So yeah, we did a lot of physical rewards back then, dice and tokens, and high levels people got necklaces and all kinds of stuff. That's kind of fallen out of favor in a lot of Kickstarters, and for good reason. It's a lot of work and a lot of things to ship. The new Kickstarter is, much more focused on just providing, the books, the new stuff itself.
Yeah, I've always wondered, like, how much of your funds actually go into that aspect of the Kickstarter. It's like, okay, you got all this money, but at the same time, you still got to fill in for all the promised rewards and stuff. So
a lot of our money went to shipping all over the world.
Because we also ended up doing 2 rounds of shipping. The book itself went through a rewrite, so we had all these physical rewards, and the book was going to be another year out. So we decided to send out the physical rewards, so they weren't sitting in my living room.
Just this endless pile of rewards saying, ship me, ship me, ship me.
Ship me, ship. But that definitely ate into the budget. So as we're sitting and looking at the new Kickstarter, we have a chunk of money set aside for Kickstarter fees and the payment processing fees, because that's a thing that you have to budget in, and then budgeting in taxes. That's a thing that you have to do. And the original Kickstarter, they hadn't even really figured out how you calculated taxes, because it was, okay, you're getting this money, but you haven't produced anything yet, so do you wait until it was really confusing back then. Now there's much better guidelines, but taxes, buffer for if something goes wrong. We'll be charging shipping in BackerKit when it's time to ship things, so that we can go, this is how much this weighs and this is where it's going to,
and then people will have to pay for the shipping at that time.
And that's become kind of standard for most Kickstarters now.
Yeah, one thing I really like about a lot of the Uru projects that everyone talks about is, since it was so early in the 2000s, so many of the modern conveniences, like you pointed out, just weren't there. And I think about the early days of the Cavern today. There was no Skype, or we used a program called Pamela at one point to record our podcasts. We were using like TeamSpeak, which was really, really choppy. It's very fun to go back and listen to those, but But just
Some of that early stuff was just amazing with how much everybody was getting done with the resources they had.
oh
Mhm.
yeah, I mean, one thing I love about the Myst community in general is if you're a Myst fan, you're a storyteller.
Mhm.
There's no question. That is just ingrained into your brain. And back with that, it was more so, okay, we're stuck in the cavern. There's no new content coming in. What can we do? And it was simply, let's just make it up. It was wonderful and people loved it. And so, again, to go back to Kickstarter, it's really impressive how far it's come, but it's even more impressive what you guys had to do during that first Kickstarter, because that just adds to your sense of accomplishment. Like, yeah, there wasn't all that there, but we did it, we made it, and now we're doing an expansion, and it's going to be a
Mhm.
lot.
Exactly. Yeah.
The first time we got our proof copy of the hardcover of Unwritten, because that was an exclusive for the original Kickstarter, we just both sat there staring at it. This is a real book. We made a real thing. Oh my god.
So is the first copy like framed on a wall somewhere?
It's in V's office.
Yeah.
Well, even better.
Yeah, and it was interesting because we would show it to people that we knew who weren't Myst fans and they weren't gamers, and they'd be like, "This is a thing. What does it do?" It's like, "Well, okay, it's you tell stories in this world," and they were very like I showed it to my aunt and uncle once, and they were very confused about it. They're like, "We don't understand. So these places don't exist?" Like, well, no, it's a story, like a movie, but you just make it up. I'm like, well, yeah.
Yeah,
So
ad lib, create things from your head,
yeah,
like when you were a
but
kid.
yeah, exactly. But they were looking. It's like, well, this is a book because it's a book. I showed it to my boss of my day job. He's like, you told me you were doing something, but I was expecting you'd have like a spiral notebook or something. Now this you could expect to see this on a shelf in a bookstore. I'm like, yeah, exactly. That was the point.
Who did your publishing? Who did you guys go through for that?
We went through Drive Through RPG, and actually, the original book is still available as a PDF or a softcover, and it sells every month.
So do you guys still get profits from that, or is that more so just...
Yeah, we still get royalties. From
Yeah,
it.
it's not. I mean, it's not.
It's
It's a
super
small
amount, but
trickle, And for a while, it was on the C.C.N store too, which we got a small trickle through there too, which is interesting since we've never been able to do much PR for it. It's just two people, but even then, people keep finding us, and we keep getting a little bit here and there. People just like, oh wait, Myst has a role playing game. Cool.
one of the things we're kind of hoping, with this Kickstarter is have some money left over to be able to start doing things like distribution, a couple different resources for small indie publishers like us to be able to get Unwritten into physical brick and mortar stores, because that's something it's not been. We donated some copies to our favorite local gaming store, but that's not something that we've been able to do, and we haven't been able to have a presence at places like Gen Con. So the fact that it actually still sells, even though we haven't ever been to Gen Con with it, is actually kind of a big deal.
Myst fans are everywhere.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me in the least, because you don't think of, unfortunately, you don't really think of Myst as a mainstream title in this day and age.
Mm-hmm.
It's more of a cult following. I think that's one of my favorite things from this year's Mysterium is when Sherry was talking about her trip to the con, and she's talking to that woman on the plane, and looks at her and says, "Are you in a cult?" I'm like, kind of, but yeah. But
kind of, maybe a little bit, yeah.
just a
Interesting
smidge.
story from Mysterium this year. One of the people I ran into was there with a friend who was a big Myst fan, and they worked at Blizzard,
Oh, nice.
and they were this. I mean, and they played Myst, but it was no big deal for them. But their friend was really into it, so they were there too, and they were like, "I've never seen this sort of response. Any fan group put together this sort of convention for a title hasn't been in production for around 4 decades and completely indie. Nowadays C.C.N is what we consider an indie game producer, though back in the day we didn't really have that distinction. So she was just surprised that 250 people showed up to Spokane, Washington to celebrate this. And she's like, no other indie game has this.
Yeah, they really don't. And one of the things we've noticed going out into the world with our mist shirts on and stuff is every time I wear a mist shirt out somewhere, somebody recognizes it. And every time I say, yeah, and there's an annual gathering of fans, their reaction is, there's a what? When, where, how do I know about this? We did few times, we did fan tables at local conventions. And people were like, there's a MistCon? Is this a new thing? And we're like, no, it's been going for 20 years, 20 plus years now. And we would get people asking about when registration was and how do I find out more? And we'd give them the URL to Mysterium every time. There is so many Mist fans out there. And I think when Mysterium had to be completely virtual because of COVID the last couple of years, and they were getting hundreds of people watching panels on Twitch, we've started to realize just exactly that appeal that Mist still has in the world.
And there are a lot of people out there who are still interested if it would, pass by their radar. And there's all sorts of famous people. Neil Patrick Harris is a huge Mist fan.
I can see that.
He name-checked Mist VR on a late-night talk show once because he was talking about VR. He was like, and I played this Mist. Adam Conover is a big Mist fan. Sondheim. Sondheim was a huge Mist fan, it turns out. But yeah.
I'm waiting for Lin-Manuel Miranda to say that he's a Mist nerd.
Hopefully someday we can get that out of him.
Yeah, just track him down, say, hi, see my shirt, tell me you're a fan.
Exactly. I mean, he's a bit of a geek anyways. He's a huge fan of the Kingkiller Chronicles.
Yeah, I wonder if Henry Cavill is a Mist fan too, because he's openly said he was playing World of Warcraft when he got the call to be Superman, and I'm like, that is the dopest thing.
Oh yeah, and that's why he did The Witcher and everything,
Yep.
Yeah.
But back on Unwritten, you talk about conventions, and you guys have taken this to more than one Mysterium at this stage.
We or somebody tries to do something with Unwritten at every Mysterium now. From somebody's gonna run a game to curator bringing all of his gorgeous stuff this year, to me playing around with some LARP ideas, which was very much just me looking for an excuse to make some hands-on puzzles, but also to test out a few little things.
Yeah, how did it go this year?
It went well. Curators' games went really well. Mine, went fine. I had them tromping through different ages looking for ingredients to cure poor Odo of linking pox. And Odo was kind enough to let me stick giant dots on him.
Oh my god.
And then gave him, just sticky dots, just stickers, and then gave him some extras so that he could contaminate other people.
So not acupressure pointed. Yeah, okay, all right.
No, just sticky dots.
Yep.
Just plain old stickers. But it was still kind of hilarious because people were like, why does he have dots on it?
Let me guess, the cure was in Teledon. It was the mushrooms.
It was, so I actually made several things that they had to go out and get. In one age, they had to pop these giant seed pods, but not get the pollen all over them. That was, biodegradable glitter. And then there was little, they were marshmallows with candy on it and pop rocks. And then the other age, they had to get distract the acid spitting knot frogs so that they could get frog eggs. And one of the people was cosplaying as Yisha. So she just played as young Yisha, Revelation era Yisha. And she ended up getting, evidently Yisha has never had chocolate before. The frog eggs were, chocolate wrapped, M&Ms wrapped in fondant. She started eating those and just kept stealing them. So they were like, no, you can't eat all of them. We need some of them for the cure.
Yeah. And the eggs were in a big bowl of oobleck, cornstarch and water. So they had to dig those out while they're doing these things. So yeah, it was a very hands-on experience, which we don't have enough of those, I think, when it comes to Mist stuff.
No. So now you guys are doing this expansion. So let's talk a little bit about that. What are you intending to do with this Unwritten expansion? What are you asking for, and what do you hope to really see from it?
So one of the things from the original Unwritten is that it was fairly lore light. Like we didn't, we gave the basics of the universe and the world, and this is the art, and this is there's people now in the cavern, and the DRC tried to restore it. We did a little bit of that, but we didn't really lore dump a lot, because we didn't want to make it really like you must have a PhD in mystology to be able to play this game. For this, we wanted to talk more about the post restoration era. How did the cavern get to where it is now? Who might be down there? What sort of, if we're postulating in Unwritten that the cavern is well populated with various groups and people that live there, that work there, that do things there regularly. What does that look like? And how do you role play in that environment? So we've been putting together different groups that maybe are functioning in the cavern, pulling up more information about the restoration, the rediscovery era, the restoration era. If somebody wants to play, we are Rezangs during the early days of the DRC before explorers get there. Here's the information you need to do that. If you want to be on job fighting Branch Lofton's team before the DRC even gets involved, here's what that looks like.
So really bringing the modern day cavern into focus.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And adding a lot of details so that people can, look at some details, adopt them if they want, or use them as inspiration for their own things. For instance, we have backgrounds for each of the major DRC members, including their game statistics. They have stat blocks. We have a number of sort of example, other explorers that we have, that are our own creation, that are doing things around the cavern in various ways. We've taken the Uru ages and described them in ways that you can use with the mechanics. So essentially giving them basic stat blocks as well as creating additional ages that you could use anywhere, but in terms of kind of the context of a modern day game.
We have some ages left over from the original Kickstarter. One of our levels then was, create an age. We had a Guild of Writers level, and one of the benefits was create an age for the book, and we had some of those left over that we just couldn't fit into the original book. So we're really excited to be able to finally use those.
Yeah.
If it's just sitting on the back burner, say, use me, come on.
Use me,
yeah.
Use me. Yeah.
We have a lot of work that's been done. We've written 60,000 words, but we want to do more. We're thinking maybe 30 to 40,000 more words of writing to do. And then, editing, layout, a lot of art. We want to do a lot of art. Unwritten has a lot of sort of generic art in it in the main book because, we were running off a shoestring budget. And so we're looking to do some things that are a little bit more specific. We continue to, try to utilize artists that are in the fandom communities.
Yeah, you should grab Shroomy.
Actually,
I talked to her at Mysterium about doing new cover art. She did the cover for Unwritten, the first book. It was existing art, but she graciously let us use it. But it'd be really cool to be able to get some modern explorer art from her. That is definitely something on our list, and also that one of the things that we felt very, very, very strongly about when we sat down and started budgeting this Kickstarter is that we would pay a fair market rate to our writers and our artists, because that's something that the tabletop industry struggles with. So we were given access to an industry document where various publishers have signed on to, this is what our rates are, and this is what the lowest end should be, and this is what the highest end should be, and we're looking right at mid-range. And so that's part of why the Kickstarter is asking for $20,000, which is significantly more than the first Kickstarter asked for. And it's because we want to be able to go to some of the people we want to ask to write and say, here's what we can pay you.
Mm-hmm.
The original book was written primarily by V and myself, and we didn't get paid for that.
Nope.
And we don't want to do that again, because one, that's hard on us to get a really high quality 90,000 to 100,000 words out there. That's a lot of work. And we have a few more industry connections now. So there are people we'd like to say, we would like to pay you to do this work. And I think that will elevate the quality of the product.
And it will open up the audience a bit, as people see some industry names that they're familiar with and go, oh, well, this so and so worked on this, so let's take a look at it. We were very lucky in the first book to get the help of someone named Leonard Balsera. He is a writer from the TTRPG industry, and he wrote the Fate system, the current version of the Fate system that we built Unwritten off of. He was the main developer behind the Dresden Files role-playing game, and worked on a lot of the Fate system supplements and such, won several awards, that sort of thing. But the best thing is that he's a big Myst nerd. When we first started talking to people in the industry about, hey, we weren't going to make this game, we got an email from Lenny going, how did you get this gig and how do I help? So we paid him to be our development editor for Unwritten. And part of the reason why we're really proud of what we did, our first draft of Unwritten, was okay. And he looked at it and said, this is okay. Myst deserves better. And he's like, you should take some chances. And so, taking his advice to heart, we rewrote the book almost from the ground up. And we have a game that's, I think, it is a better game. It's a bit more daring, and it's a bit more faithful to Myst's themes and sensibilities than we had before when we were trying to just sort of, make it's like D&D, but with Myst stuff. One of those being the fact that the Fate core system has a set of mechanics for doing combat, and Unwritten does not. We removed those from Unwritten. Because in the Myst universe, that's not how you solve things. You solve things by, figuring things out, using your head, exploring. And so we just took out the parts of the system that are about combat. And if, you can kind of, if you want to hit somebody, you can do that in the game. But there's not much to it. It's just sort of like, oh, I hit him, and you move on. Even like in one of our alpha games, we were playing a version of Riven, and finally one of the players actually just, smacked Gen in the face with the trap book.
Couldn't convince him to touch it, so just took it and smacked it into his face. It was hilarious.
Did it work?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
So it wasn't going to work, but there's an option in Written to succeed with a serious cost. So essentially you get what you want, but, something goes bad.
So what was the thing that went bad?
Oh, well, she dropped the book and then fell on it.
Oh.
It wasn't a trap book where only one person can be in there. We were doing a more sort of revelation version of the trap books. She found herself, for a short period of time in an age where, there was nothing there but Gen.
And this character had been relatively antagonistic to all of the other characters. So there was actual discussion about, do we go get them and figure out how to get them without letting Gen loose, or do we just leave them?
So did you leave her?
No, they evidently did. They did eventually go back and get her, but I just sat back. I was running the game. I just sat back and let them talk it out.
Mm-hmm.
See, I would love to hear this, like this kind of thing. It would just be like perfect in an audio sense. Like just listening to people play this, it sounds absolutely hilarious.
We've done some live plays of Unwritten. There's a couple of one-shots that are on YouTube, including a one-shot that we did with people from C.C.N, including GD and Carl, one other person, Katie. I forget, and Katie. And for about a year, I was running a live play once per month Twitch game for Unwritten. And just recently, I've passed it over to Curator, who is running a live play game of Unwritten on Twitch, once per month. And we're going to get his games up on YouTube soon, too. So, you can see what an Unwritten game is by just looking up Unwritten RPG on YouTube.
And we've talked about things like, running a game in Cavern, in Uru.
Mm-hmm.
What would that look like? Especially, with the new book, having the stats for Teledon and Kedish Delessa and stuff like that. What would it look like to run a game in Unwritten, in voice, the Open Uru people have already added a dice roller to the key, which I think is awesome.
Mhm.
We asked them, "Can you do this?" And they went, "Yeah, we can." And
Yeah,
you
just
can roll dice. So I mean, honestly, somebody could sit around a heat table and run a D&D game if they really wanted to, too, because they
yeah,
added more than just the fate dice. But
yeah,
Yeah,
being able to play
I would very
legit-
much encourage that, because if there's one thing we need in the cavern, it's more substance, and the more events we got, the better. So you guys are off to an excellent start. You have about 133 backers at the time of this recording. You have 15
hmm
days, and you're already at $8,698. So
we're almost
ba-boom,
to 50% at 50 days.
yeah,
almost.
50 yeah at 50% through the Kickstarter. So we're doing really well. We do need to do a little bit better. I was just looking at Kick Tracks earlier, and it has us getting to like 88%. So
so yeah,
tell all your friends.
yeah.
They
Tell
also
every
did a Twitch stream for Unwritten, I believe, when the Kickstarter launched, the day of. So if you guys want to check that out, there's
No, that's
we can.
Ellery, myself, and a curator who is, um, you know, we've kind of adopted into our, cabal of creators because he does so much so well with Unwritten and Unwritten sort of things. So, um, we're,
He is our one
we've
man.
absconded with him.
He was able to do. He didn't do a full demo of Unwritten at Gen Con last year, because he was working the Pazio, he was running Pazio games, but he had all of his Unwritten themed fancy DM screens and everything. Yeah, and his Unwritten themed masks, like he got masks printed with the Unwritten logo on it. So he was definitely talking about it.
Mhm.
So hopefully, not this year since Gen Con is like this weekend, but hopefully next year we will be able to have an actual established presence at Gen Con with books available for sale.
exciting.
Yeah. So, anybody who listens to this or your friends, if this sounds interesting, take a look at the Kickstarter. And, if this, if we get this Kickstarter, that gives us a lot of momentum to do even more. And we have lots more ideas and we want to do more. So any help that people, any interest people have, any help you can give, that's terrific.
So before we wrap up, because I think this is a pretty good spot to stop, I did want to bring
Sure.
up one more thing. You guys have yourself listed in your Kickstarter as Ink Spark Games.
Mm-hmm.
So is that relatively new, or was that something that you guys listed yourself under when you did your first Kickstarter?
The first Kickstarter was under Inkworks Productions, so it's just been a rebranding.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, Kickstarter doesn't let you rebrand an account. You have to make a new account. So that's why we had to just link to the original Kickstarter and say no, this is the same people. But the rebranding is because at some point, one of our hopes is that we can go to other smaller IP holders, smaller independent IP holders who may have always thought, hey, it would be neat to have a role playing game of our stuff, and say, we'll do it.
Mm-hmm.
We'll create a role, something like Dresden Files was done by a really big publisher. Not like D&D level publisher, but Evil Hat is one of the bigger publishers in the industry, and they might not be interested in somebody who's only got a trilogy out there, but that's got some amazing world building.
Mm-hmm.
And we are. That's the and then stepping outside of maybe role playing games into escape, portable escape rooms or ARG type stuff.
Yeah, branching out.
Branching out. That's adventures for people.
Yeah.
People adventures.
Now, does InkSpark have an actual website, or is it just for now listed as your Kickstarter?
It's inkspark.games, but it's pretty sparse right now.
Okay.
Because we're focused on, really focused on the Kickstarter.
Well, I think we'll wrap it up there. Thank you guys again for coming onto the show. It was absolutely delightful speaking with the two of you about what is, I hope, to be your next big success.
Thank
Well,
you.
thank you very much for having us.
And with that, we close another episode. I would again like to thank Ellery and Vax Jedi for coming on to the show and telling us about this awesome project. If you guys have not checked out the Kickstarter yet, I highly suggest you do. It is a great project to invest in. It is about halfway to its goal of 20,000 and still has about 10 days to go. With that, my friends, thank you for listening and look forward to more. Shorah b'Shem T.